Okay, so I'm going to do a sort of two-parter this evening. I'm going to do a little update on joining the dots. Okay, now I'm calling this Joining the Dots 2.2 because it's definitely not 0.3, if you understand what I mean. But I want to just look at one or two little bits and pieces, one or two updates, so that we as Christians, if you like, know where the pot's got to. If you like, we're a bit like, as humans, we're a bit like, I think we're like frogs in a pot, but we've got to know when to jump out. You know, we can't get out of the world. There are those who've got huge plots of land in America who've been at it for years and they built themselves a box and I think they're going to jump in. You know, we can't do that here in the UK, but we do need to be prepared to look at what's going on and to be aware of it. And I want to start here, okay? And I always start when I'm sharing about from two passages in Scripture. And the first one is from 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, where it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind." Okay? Can I say the world has everything opposite to that? You know, their spirit of fear is, you know, fear-mongering is starting all over again. Okay? They're trying to take possession of our lives, and I'll show you that in a minute. And they're trying to make anybody who doesn't think that way doubt whether or not you've actually got all your marbles. Okay? And the second passage says the following. It says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus." We need to be those who rule and reign in the peace of God. And that's vitally important for us. So let's just have a look at one or two little bits and pieces that have changed since I did the last update. As I was explaining to the preacher this morning, I didn't have enough time to explain to him everything that was in the previous two videos. Can I say one thing? A lot of the church are still asleep. There are people who aren't awake. So let's just pitch into one. Okay, if you remember, we talked about road user charging, and as I said before, quite a long time ago, I felt that ULEZ was a smokescreen or a Trojan horse. Call it what you like. Okay. Well, actually, as you now know, on the 29th of August, ULEZ, the London charging scheme, you know, the low emission zone, they're going to start charging people. If you like, all the protests have been focused on ULEZ, although you wouldn't believe it because you haven't seen a single one on the media. Some of you may or may not know that there were about 50,000+ people descended upon the BBC to complain that they hadn't covered any of it. They blocked all of the streets around Broadcasting House in central London. The whole place was, because you know, there are people who are covering the news. There's an Iranian, you may have seen him, Maya Tousi, he covers the news. I mean, he was there at the time. And it took him half an hour to walk through the people. BBC, Zippo. However, if you remember, I talked about this particular app because the fact is I felt it was all about road user charging. Well, if you read the news, there was a hint yesterday in the news when Rishi Sunak, who was somewhere else doing his thing, mentioned that in order to be fair, we've got to find a way to charge electric car users for the damage they're doing to the roads. Because they don't pay anything, do they? If you've got an electric car, you don't pay any road fund licence. We have to find a way for charging, for getting them to pay. It was just one little sentence that I sort of picked up. You know, you scan through the online newspaper and my eyes fell on it. Okay. Now, can I say that they've put in road user charging without us being aware of it? Well, some of us are aware of it. Okay. The app is ready to go. I've spoke to a colleague of mine just before the end of term. She said it's ready to go, and you can find it if you search for Pay to Drive in London. That's what they've called it. I looked it up again this afternoon. It's live. It's there. I haven't got an Apple phone, but on an Android phone, you can look up Pay to Drive in London. There's the app. The terms and conditions, if you go on the website, if you were to print them, there must be 30, 40 pages of terms and conditions. Okay, but there are some pretty interesting ones like, okay, when you install the app, it turns on location services for the app and you can't turn it off, and you agree to that. There's a little tick box you have to sort of click on as you go through. So that immediately gives this app, or whoever the data is going, they know where the app is all the time. Okay. So just to let you know, and of course, as you know, it's all part of the C40 cities. And if you haven't seen that, go and see the details on the previous video. But of course, who is the chairman or whatever of C40 cities for the next 3 years? Sadiq Khan. Okay? So basically, you know, if he gets, as you know, there's going to be an election in London. If he gets thrown out as the mayor of London, and I think a lot of people probably will try, of course, the road user charging will already be in place. Yeah. Our government has put it, and of course, it was introduced by Boris Johnson. So Sadiq Khan was not the person who introduced all of the low emission zones. It was introduced by the previous. And I think there's a lady who is saying, oh, I'll scrap ULEZ. Well, she can scrap ULEZ, but she's not going to be able to scrap road user charging. Okay, some of you will know that we live in rural Berkshire. We live in a village of 2,900 residents. And in the last fortnight, cameras have appeared in our village. Okay, there are 3 main roads in and out of our village. And so on the roundabout near where we live, this has appeared in the last fortnight on a lampstand, just before we came away. If you go to the centre of our village, which is where all the roads come together, there are now cameras pointing in both directions. And if you go down the hill from our village to where the other roads all come in, pointing up the hill, is another bracket, but it hasn't got 2 cameras on it yet. But I would suspect when we go back, they will be there. Okay, there we go. They're 3 high-resolution ANPR cameras. In other words, they can read number plates as we go in or out, and they cover all the roads. Did you know that as of the end of June, ANPR cameras were active as follows on the motorways? M1, London to Leeds. M2 to Ashford, M3 down as far as Winchester, probably Southampton by the autumn. M4 all the way to Wales. M5 from Birmingham all the way to Exeter. For the M6, Birmingham up to Manchester. The M62, the whole length. And the M25, the whole of the M25. So every mile, every 2 miles, they are recording your registration number on those motorways. They say it's for safety. And they are measuring your speed they are allowing 70 mile an hour plus 2. That is why people no longer drive very fast around the M25, because they just are serving so many fines. Is it about fining you? No, it's about knowing where you are. Okay, now, here's an interesting one. It says Tadpole Garden Village. I wonder where that is. Okay, there are, on the entrance, literally through the gate here, a double-acting ANPR cameras, and it says ANPR cameras in use 24/7 for your safety. Interesting. And then also all the small print about Paranese. However, I did look on the sign further down, and you can't read it, but it does talk about that they can send the data on to other people, so doing it before it goes to some national computer. And thank you to somebody else who went spying for me. They're also on the other main road by the pub going in. So everybody going in and out of, how many houses are there here? 2,000 odd homes? Everybody going in or out, somebody knows that they've gone in or out in the car. And can I say, if you go back, my understanding is that one of those cameras is ANPR, automatic number plate recognition, and the other one is capable of doing facial recognition. Okay, that's what I understand. I might be slight. So therefore, Once we spotted the ones in our village go up, we've been spotting them, and they, I mean, literally, you know, it's almost impossible. I actually was trying to work out how I could get out of our village without being spotted. There are routes, but I can bet fairly shortly they will make those. You know, there's one where you can go out and you can turn left, and I bet they'll make that right turn only, because they say it's dangerous. The question is, what's the agenda? They want to know where we are in our cars at every point in time. So let's just do a little bit more updates. Right, remember the thing called the digital pound? Well, currently, all the staff are in place. If you were to look for, there were hundreds of adverts for people to work on the digital currency and on the digital pound. So on the 23rd of August, it's going to become a recognised currency in the UK. You're probably aware the 1st of April was where the US digital dollar came into place. Okay, 1st of October, commercial digital accounts can happen. 23rd of December, personal accounts will be available if you want to have one. But what's more important is that from the 1st of January, anybody who is on benefit, who has a new benefit, that will be automatically paid with the new UK digital currency, and they will create an account for you to mirror your current account. One of the things is, and you can look up the details, I did mention this before, but it says basically all new universal credit benefits will be paid into that account so that people can't misspend them. The idea being is that if you're on benefits, you should only be spending it on housing and food. Okay? I want to make the following suggestion, and that is how long it'll be before petrol pumps allow you to dab with your phone. Most of them, at the moment, you have to stick a card in, don't you? Okay? All I do know is that I'll be interested to have a look when we go back, because our local huge Sainsbury's that's got 25 pumps are having the pumps updated. Where are we now? They were being updated Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights last week. I will bet they have put them so that you can use your phone at the pump. What have they been doing? Have you noticed, some of you, I spoke to somebody who hadn't, have you noticed that, of course, when you go to pay for your fuel, it says we are taking, you know, we're holding £99 on the credit card, don't they? Or Tesco's, £125 now, Tesco's. What will happen is, of course, you will take your phone, you will put it to the machine, and it will say, no petrol today. Because they'll be able to do that, won't they? They will verify. What happens if your credit card is maxed out? It says you can't buy any fuel. The next step is, right, you've got your digital account, you've done enough travelling. Our ANPR has said where you've been, and you've overspent on fuel. It's all about control. Okay. That's me joining up the dots, you know, thinking what's going on. How long will it be before? And I do know that our local Asda, there was a little sign this week that said we are going to be updating our pumps in the next 3 weeks. Sorry for any inconvenience. They've just done that forecourt probably 2 months ago. They changed all the pumps. They're now going to change it. They'll only be changing the payment thing. But it'll be, they said, to make it more convenient. So you'll be able to use your Asda rewards card on your fuel. But we know what it's about. It's about monitoring and tracking. As Christians, we need to know where to get off. Okay, let's just talk about this one. Do you remember we talked about the 2 World Health Organization treaties? They have now ratified the International Health Regulations and Pandemic Readiness Treaty, those 2 treaties. Can I say I have read both. Can I suggest it's not bedtime reading, because you won't get past the first page, but I have read them, and they are about that thick. I didn't bring the Lever Arch file with them in, but if you want to download them and read them, they're available. Just go to the WHO, download it, and I like to read a hard copy, and I was able to print it off. But I've printed it sort of 2 to a page, and it's bedtime reading. It'll put you to sleep. But can I tell you one thing about the whole thing? In our Parliament, in answer to The one question that was answered by a certain MP, you know, the one who keeps asking awkward questions, whose letters are A, B, I won't say his name because I don't want to get taken down. He asked a question and the government gave, you know, normally they dismiss it, don't they? Say yes or no. But recently they said there is no plans to hand over UK sovereignty to the World Health Organization. Back in February, they said, the government said, and I've got the document, they said, we will ratify this treaty. Okay? Now, just to give you the two headlines from this, is that all countries have said they will ratify it by January the 1st, 2024. Most of them said 2024, but when you look at the small print, they've all said January the 1st. That's not very far away. However, there is an unless. If the World Health Organization declare a pandemic before the ratification date, all countries is automatically ratified. Okay? That's what the Pandemic Readiness Treaty says. Okay? So, if they declare a pandemic, immediate implementation. The other one is all secondary pupils in September will be vaccinated against flu. Okay? That's what they said. The latest thing on the NHS website says flu plus with a nasal spray. An education establishment I work at, everybody, it's on the calendar for the third week of September, third week of term. Okay, but it doesn't say flu, it says flu plus. I'm not working that day, so that's quite convenient. Okay, so, you know, let's be aware of what's going on. Have I covered all the extra bits there? Right, okay. One of my favourites, my father and I love talking about these things, apart from the 500 on fire in the North Sea. Electric vehicles. This one I got from the 22nd of July from the Times. By the way, I don't read the Times, but my father does, and he sent this to me. Okay, look what it says. Gatwick Airport have spent £1 million creating a charging station not far from Gatwick Airport. There's only one problem. There's not enough power in the area to connect it up. They estimate, and if you see down here, according to the chief executive of Moto, who operates, I love this, the Peas Pottage service area near Gatwick. I'm looking to, I don't know where that is or how close it is to Gatwick, but I'm looking to, pretty close, I imagine. Yep. Pardon? 9 miles away. Okay, so it's but I bet they've got a sort of relay, so if you've got your car on charge or whatever. Okay. But he says the power was supposed to be switched on at the start of the month, that was July, but it's now been delayed till somewhere between September and December, missing the entire summer holidays. Why? Because there ain't enough juice in the network to connect it up. You know, and I think there are huge infrastructure issues around about what's going on. I want to just mention this one. Okay, you met the health, and a certain MP keeps asking questions and he keeps being fobbed off. But if you notice that these are the excess deaths, this has come from the Office, ONS, the Office for National Statistics, up to the 7th of July. And the 7th of July, there were only 200 excess deaths in the UK above the average. But of course, our averages are now starting to get skewed because they're taken over a 5-year, and of course we had something called a pandemic where the deaths were higher and the numbers no longer link up. However, you can see, and I didn't bother enlarging it, and I haven't got the latest figures, but people are still, the average is still higher than you would expect for this time of year, and watch what happens as we go further down. You see, one of the things we have to be is we have to be ready, and we have to be prepared. And I just want to say, I know a number of us have got various other bits and pieces prepared. And I know Nigel mentioned it about the new version of the Bible, which is out for sale. Well, the interesting thing is, How long is it going to be? You see, the UN are now considering the Bible as a potentially offensive document. But at the moment it says potentially offensive document. I mean, how long is it actually going to be before it's actually considered offensive? Now, can I just say, this is what Helen and I are doing. I offer this to you. We are buying Bibles. Now, I'll just show you this one. We've come across this one because I think this is quite good. Okay, it's a New King James Bible, but it's quite small. If you like, we bought it by accident. We weren't planning to buy a small one, but, you know, Bible, you can give them away. They're $12.95, so it's not expensive. Yes, I might be struggling to read it because it is, but it's a red line Bible. It's all there. The whole Bible is there. But what's more important about it is it goes in an inside pocket in a coat. I just offer that as a suggestion. We're going to buy quite a lot of them, so don't you guys all get in there first. But at that sort of price, I think we can afford to have a few, A, to give away, and B, I mean, I can't exactly go walking in the woods for a Bible study with this. I mean, as much as I appreciate my Dake's Analytical Bible, it's got nice big text, it's great. But I think there's going to be a time when maybe, you know, you're walking with a friend and you want to have a Bible study and you can't carry a small Bible, maybe to give away or whatever. Because I think we need to make sure we've got them. Yeah. And we've got spares. Yeah. Because what happens once this becomes a fully offensive document? You know, I don't think it'll take very long, particularly when we start to comment on other versions and we comment on one or two of the bits and pieces. And as I've said, when we came to look at Abraham, I have deliberately steered away from one or two passages this week because I would quite like the YouTube to keep going. But let's now have a look at the call of Abraham, and let's start to wrap up and work our way, and we'll see how long we get. So if you'd like to turn with me to Genesis chapter 15, we're going to have a look at one or two things there. I probably will be doing a joining up the dots update in the autumn at some point. I'm looking to Nigel. We'll arrange a date sometime when, assuming we can. But we'll see what happens.